face, and your brain instantly relaxes. It's an automatic, unconscious response. Millions of years of human evolution have hardwired us to trust our eyes. We are biologically programmed to believe that a relaxed posture, an open expression, and a bright smile are absolute proof of safety. When that visual proof turns out to be a lie, it triggers a severe psychological shock, cognitive dissonance. It happens when our eyes register a scene as safe, right before the context reveals it as lethal. Modern predators understand this vulnerability. They know you don't need to hide in the shadows if you can manufacture a harmless aesthetic. They use everyday photography, the selfies and holiday snaps we all take, as active camouflage. The most dangerous threats we face today do not wear masks. They look right into the lens and smile for the flash, proving that our feeling of safety is a fragile visual illusion. In the summer of 2017, Richard Spottiswoode invited his 24-year-old employee, Darren Bonner, on a weekend holiday to a caravan park in northern England. They spent 3 days drinking and socializing along the coast. At 1:15 in the morning on their final night, the pair captured this selfie. Notice the relaxed shoulders, the casual lean, and the wide smiles. Hours after that flash went off, an early morning walker found Darren dumped in a shallow hole near a stone wall. He had been stripped, beaten, and strangled so tightly he suffered irreversible brain damage. He died 16 days later in the hospital. Forensic archaeologists determined that the grave Darren was found in took roughly an hour to dig. Prosecutors argued it had been dug in advance. That would mean as Richard smiled and hugged his employee for the camera, he already knew he was going to kill him. The photo was a carefully staged alibi. Thousands of miles away in India, 29-year-old Raja Raghavanshi and 25-year-old Sonam entered an arranged marriage. By all outward accounts, they had accepted the cultural expectation of a lifelong commitment. Look at this image from their ceremony. It hits every aesthetic mark of a joyful, traditional union. There is no trace of tension or reluctance visible anywhere in the frame. A week later, the couple traveled to a remote mountainous region for their honeymoon. Raja's body was later found at the bottom of a deep gorge with his throat slit. Investigators allege that Sonam has already hired 3 contract killers to execute her husband during the trip, meaning she was actively plotting his murder while posing for those marital portraits. Miguel Cortez Miranda lived in the East Calco district of Mexico City. To the people around him, he was an articulate bacteriological chemist, a dedicated vegan, an animal rights activist, and a vocal feminist. He projected this exact persona onto his data labs. He curated these profiles to actively build trust with women who were looking for a safe, progressive partner. That persona dissolved when police entered his apartment in April 2024. Inside, they found human skulls, bone saws, diaries detailing multiple murders, and the ID cards of 20 different women. He had been operating as a serial killer for over a decade. He even posted this photo to his Facebook page, smiling next to a woman named Frida Sofia Limura. She had vanished in 2015. Everyone assumed she had simply moved away, completely oblivious to the fact that her killer was hiding in plain sight on their news feeds. This animated flowchart illustrates what psychologists call the halo effect. When we see one strong positive trait, like an approachable, wholesome profile picture, that impression radiates outward. It biases our judgment so heavily that we overlook multiple behavioral warning signs. Digital platforms provide curated camouflage for community predators. They offer the exact tools needed to manufacture a flawless disguise and hunt without suspicion. This photograph shows the dense district of Kabukicho in Tokyo. It's an environment where the fantasy relationships performed in host clubs often spiral into intense emotional dependencies. That is exactly the world that consumed 21-year-old Yuka Takaoka. After discovering photos of her favorite host with another woman, Yuka stabbed him in the abdomen. When police arrived, they found her sitting next to his bleeding body. She was sitting calmly, smoking a cigarette and chatting on the phone, her legs soaked in blood. The image hit the internet and went viral. Instead of viewing it as a horrific attempted murder, online communities treated it as an aesthetic event. They labeled her a real-life yandere, a gamified anime trope, and even raised thousands of dollars for her bail. This shift toward treating violence as optimized content reaches its extreme in the case of Abdullia Sanchez. In 2017, Abdullia crashed her car while intoxicated and live-streaming on Instagram. Her 14-year-old sister was ejected from the vehicle and suffered fatal head trauma. Rather than seeking immediate medical help, Abdullia kept the camera rolling, filming her sister's final moments for her thousands of followers. The drive to farm engagement can override basic human empathy. Real tragedies are transformed into spectacles, turned into content for an audience that never stops scrolling. Look at these photographs one last time. They are not holiday snaps or wedding albums. Every single one of these is an active, unresolved crime scene. We don't stare at these images out of morbid curiosity. Our obsession is a biological survival mechanism. Our brains desperately scan the geometry of faces, searching for dead eyes or micro-expressions of guilt to spot the threat. But modern technology has outpaced our defenses. With digital filters, manufacturing visual safety takes less than a second. The warning signs are erased instantly. The monsters of the real world do not hide in the dark. They pose, they smile, and they hit upload. Our safety depends